everybody, Real Ninja here. I'm working on the boat today, but I thought it'd be a good idea to do a quick how-to on crappie fishing. I've had some people ask me about how I do my crappie fishing, so I'll just give you a quick run through. I've got everything that I usually use with me. I forgot to get out some bobbers and bobber stops. I generally don't use that, but it does work very good for a lot of people, and I have used it, and it's effective. You can use the bobber stop and the bobber to set your bait at the depth you want to fish, and it's a good idea a lot of times, but generally that's not what I do. Sometimes I do, but mostly I don't, and I'll show you what I tie up. I'll show you the rods and reels that I use, the line that I use, and the jigs, all that stuff. It's been very effective for me, so hopefully this will help you get out there and get on those crappie. So when I'm fishing for crappie, this is basically all that I use. I really just mostly use chartreuse and white, or like a shad color, or these different types of baits right here that I use are very good, and I just use a little jig head on them. I have a couple different weights here. Usually I just run light like this. I usually just tie the bottom one on with the clinch knot and back it up with a half hitch, but you can use a polymer knot or a uni knot, and then above that, about a foot and a half, I'll put another one on with a dropper loop. I'll just use a dropper loop and throw it on there, and it's ready to fish. It's quick, it's easy to tie up, and it works really good. So here's one of my favorite baits. I think this is a Sportsman's Warehouse house brand. These come in all chartreuse or the half white, half chartreuse. You see the body of this grub is half white and half chartreuse. Now the way I rig this is, so you got your little jig head here. I think this is a 3/16 ounce. It's an eagle claw, and what I want is the tail to be aiming up. See how the tail is up? And I want the hook coming up through the back, also up. So I'm gonna go into the bait and feed it on like a worm, and then I'm gonna pop up out of the back, and then I'm gonna push the body of the grub up onto the shank of the jig head, and then press down right here where that little tang is to help hold your bait on. And see how the hook and the bait, the tail of the bait, are up. That's what I want. Now I've got two different colors here, the Bobby Garland crappie baits, and they both work very good. Chartreuse and a shad color, and you bait them up the same way. So here's the Bobby Garland shad color, and you can see it where the body, you want the black top on the black part goes on the top. Okay, so I'm gonna have the hook coming out of the back of it, and I just feed it on there, pop out the back, and push it up onto the shank of the jig head, and then I press down on that tang so the bait grips on there. That's all you do. It's really easy. I'm going to show you a few other baits here that I got in my box. I mean, these work too, but those are my two favorite. I've used stuff like this. These work. This is very similar, just a different color. These work. This one's pretty much the same as the other one. I think this one might be a little bit bigger size. These will work fine. You can use those. Even these little tubes like this, these will work too. I've got another color here. This is like a rainbow shad, Bobby Garland. Those work. So to me, what's the difference between using a bait like this or using a bait like this? They both work. They're both effective. However, this one costs a lot less money and it catches just as many fish. So I'm going to rig one more of these up just to show you one more time. See the tails coming off this side? I want the hook coming off the same side. So it's very easy. Just go in through the bait, pop out about the middle of the back. You see that little tang right there? You see that little tang? That's what I'm talking about. That little tang right there. When you push the bait up over that, then you push down on it and it bites into the bait so it doesn't slip off. It helps hold it on. So that's what you want, hook up and tail up. Now I'm going to show you how I rig this up. It's very easy, very easy. The hardest part for some people is going to be learning how to tie the dropper loop, and there's different ways of doing it. Some people might not do it the way I do, but anyways, back again here. So this is a 6-pound mono line I have on here, and I'm just going to tie a clinch knot. I'm going to pinch the ends and give it about 6 twists, and then I'm going to put the tag in through the loop in the bottom above the eyelet, moisten it to lubricate the friction, pull it tight, and see, I left enough tag end on here to where I've got something I can work with. So now I'm going to tie a half hitch onto the tag line, and then I'm going to make sure that knot is seated up close to the clinch knot that I tied. That way, if for some reason this knot starts to slip, that little clinch knot will catch and it will stop the slippage. So after I trim the tag end off of that knot, now I'm ready for my next knot, and I just go up about 1.5 feet. I go up about 1.5 feet from this jig, and then I tie a dropper loop. And the way I do it, I know other people probably might do it different, but for me it's easy. I just cross the line over like this. I want my loop to be about 2 to 3 inches long, so I get about that much out, and I just wrap it around 5 or 6 times. And then I take the end of that loop that I created around the 2 lines, and I spread these 2 lines. And then I take the end of the loop and I push it through the middle. I don't know if you can see that. So this is the line here by my pinky that I wrapped around the 2 parts of the line when I crossed it over. Now I'm just going to take that and push it between those 2 lines. And cinch it up, creating about a 2 or 3 inch loop like that. I hope you can see that. So now what I do is I draw this loop that I've created to a point, and then I take my next bait and I just go through the eyelet. I just pass the point of that loop through the eyelet on the jig head, and now the jig head's on that loop. So now what I do, I just pass the jig through the loop and then cinch it up on the knot. Now that's secured on there. That's ready to fish right there. You've got 2 baits ready to fish, high-low rig. And now I'll show you what kind of rods I use and what kind of line. This is a very, very effective way to fish for crappie. And not only are you going to catch crappie on this, you're also going to get bluegill, you're going to get bass. I've caught largemouth, smallmouth, and spotted bass on this. And that's why I use the 6-pound test, because some people fish lighter line, but I have caught 5.5 pound bass on these, and I don't want to lose them. So that's what I fish. Now this rod right here is a $20 rod. I got this at Walmart for 20 bucks, and it came with 6-pound strand line on it, mono. I took that off and I put some 6-pound suffix line on here. But this is a little micro pole, man, and these are a lot of fun to catch fish with. I mean, it's not very long. This is about it's like a 4 foot, it's a 4 foot 6 inch rod. And these are a lot of fun, and you'd be surprised how far you can actually cast this. Now most of the time when I'm fishing with this, I'm fishing on a kayak or a boat, but I do cast them from shore, and I catch a lot of crappie on this, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of times I get double hookups on here. So when I cast this out, sometimes I'll let it sink right to the bottom, and I'll just start twitching it back, But other times I don't really want to do that because it could be a snaggy area, so I'll wait till it gets almost to the bottom, and I'll start twitching it back, and I'll try to keep it up off the bottom a little bit. And it, when I get the bite, when the crappie bites it, I lean into it a little bit. I let him have it. I don't just automatically set the hook. When that crappie bites, I give it to him a little bit, then I set the hook, and I don't always just start reeling in. I'll keep tension on the line and hold him there for a second, because a lot of times another crappie will come along and grab that other jig, whether he's on the top or the bottom. Doesn't matter. You get double hookups all the time like that. It's a lot of fun. And these little rods make it a really fun sport. And not only that, crappie are really good to eat. So this is a Shakespear Micro Series. I got this at Walmart for 20 bucks, like I said. The only reason why I took the 6-pound strand off and put some 6-pound suffix on is because it came pre-spooled with a bunch of twists in the line. I'd get a bunch of wraps around the end of my pole when I cast out. So I stripped that off and I put some, the line was good, but it had twists in it. So I put the 6-pound suffix. Now, let me show you a couple other rods here that I'm using. Alright, so now here's another one I got at Walmart. This is a Shakespear Ugly Stik Lite Pro. This is a little bit longer rod. This is a 5-foot rod. You can see I've got a little Castmaster on here. Those will work too, but my favorite's those little jigs, man. I do so good on those. And I put a little Abu Garcia spinning reel on here. And this one I've got, on this one, I have the P-line Fluoro Clear. Now, crappie are not line shy, so you don't really got to worry about it, but I also use this for trout sometimes, so I put the Fluoro Clear on there. 6-pound test. I know a lot of guys are fishing 4, but hey, I like 6. I like a little bit more strength there. This is another fun rod to use. Lightweight, micro rod again. Really good. I got one more I want to show you. Oh, in addition, because I have 6 of these. I have 6 of these little Shakespeare micro rods, and some of them have the suffix 6-pound mono on it, and some of them I'm using the Berkely Trilene 6-pound mono on. They're both good lines. They're surprisingly strong for how light they are. And then this is one that I picked up from the Sports Pro Shop or something like that in Cotati. What the hell was it called? It's called the Outdoor Pro Shop in Cotati. I was up there getting a rod for lingcod and a new reel. I bought a Penn Battle 2 6000 there. I had them spool it up with some 80-pound braid, and I also bought a Rowdy rod there, which broke on the first trip, so I took it back and I got the Diawa Saltus. But anyways, while I was there returning the Rowdy and getting the Diawa Saltus, I saw this sitting there on sale for 20 bucks, rod and reel combo. This is a Diawa Shock F60 2ML. This rod's a little longer still. This is a 6-foot rod. It's rated for 4 to 10 pound test. I've got the 6-pound Fluoro Clear on here, and this is another good rod to use for crappie. And like I said, when you're fishing crappie, you're going to get bluegill, you're going to get smallmouth bass, you're going to get spotted bass, you're going to get largemouth bass. It happens. And I'll show you some footage of me catching some nice bass when I'm actually out there trying to get some crappie or bluegill.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice bass, dude.
Yeah.
Oh shit,
Nice
this is
bass.
bigger than the one last night.
Yeah, he's fat.
I'm down on one knee, I put my thumb in his lip.
He's
And I
got
go
teeth.
for the grip. How you like that, motherfucker? Hell yeah, that's a nice one. That's a good way to start the day right there. So now let's talk about, where do I target these kind of fish? When I'm fishing for crappie, what am I looking for? Well, generally what I'm looking for is some sort of cover, some structure. I'm going next to docks. I'm looking for areas where there's vegetation in the water and places where a crappie can hide. Crappie are much like a largemouth bass. They'll ambush, and they are a predator fish, and they will try to hide in the cover and ambush smaller fish. That's how they feed much of the time. So when I'm fishing for crappie, I'm usually trying to get next to a dock or find some place where some vegetation or some cover, some trees in the water. And a lot of times, most of the time, generally, if you catch one, you're going to catch a bunch, because they're a schooling species. They travel in a school, and they're pretty ferocious feeders. Once you catch one, just keep working that spot. I mean, I know sometimes the schools will move, but normally when I catch crappie, that school's going to be holding there for a little while, and I'll just keep getting them one after another. I'll be fishing them from my kayak. I'll be fishing them from my boat. I've even caught them from land, surprisingly. I've got some video from my video up at Lake Berryessa. I think I call it the humdinger stringer.
Another big one. 2. That's 2 again.
Man, I was out there making lunch, barbecuing a steak, and I figured, what the hell, I'll cast out and see if I got any luck. Man, I damn near cleaned out a school of crappie right there. And what do I do whether I'm fishing from shore? I hardly ever fish them from shore. I like to get out on the water to catch them, or off a dock or something. But that's what's worked for me most of the time. But yeah, obviously you can get them from shore too. If you find a school, I was really surprised to find them out there in that open water like that. There was basically no structure out there at all. There was no cover, but I hit this school of crappie and I was just slamming them, dude, back to back, get double hookups and stuff. It was a lot of fun, and they're good eating. The other thing I wanted to mention is, okay, so the technique. Let me grab a rod. So when I'm fishing for crappie, hope you can see the end of my rod. I'll just do a little short stick demonstration here. I'm casting out. When it hits the water, I'll go ahead and pay out a little line. If your bait hits the water and you start reeling as soon as it hits the water, you're gonna make that line get tight, and that bait's gonna come back at a radius towards you. When my bait hits the water, I pay off a little bit of line so it drops straight down, so I'm getting the most distance out of my cast. I mean, a lot of times I'll let it go all the way to the bottom, and as soon as I feel it hit the bottom, then I'll close my bail and I'll take up tension on the line and I'll just start twitching, little short bumps, twitching, and little tiny cranks on the reel, and I'll just start popping it back real slow, twitching it. Now if I'm in a place where it's real snaggy and I find out that it's real snaggy and I'm getting hung up and stuff, I'll wait till it almost gets to the bottom, then I'll start working it up a little higher in the water column and doing the same thing. I'm just twitching. I'm just light twitches, small cranks, and I'm just working that thing back slow. And then when I get hit, when I get a bite, when I get a bite, boom, I lean the rod into the fish. I get bit, boom, I give it to the fish, and then I set the hook, and then I get tension on the line. I hold him there for a second, because sometimes while he's there fighting, another fish will come up and grab your other bait. I mean, sometimes it'll happen automatic. You'll just get 2 hookup right now, but give those fish a chance to eat it, man, because they're in the school right there. You just cast it right into a school of crappie. Give them a chance to get the other one to bite it. If they don't, just reel it up and do it again. You're gonna get them again. You find a nice school of crappie, you're gonna probably hook up every other cast, maybe better than that, maybe every 3rd cast or something. But when you find crappie, keep working them in that same area that you're at and using the same technique, because now that you found them, there's crappie there. There's usually a bunch more there. It's very unusual for me to fish crappie or go fishing. If I'm in my little aluminum boat up at Lake Berryessa or something, and I'm working the shoreline, I catch a crappie, I'll usually stop and work that area for a while, because there's usually a bunch more there. But sometimes, you just get that one. It's kind of unusual, but it happens. Sometimes I get that one crappie, and then I move on to the next spot. But generally, man, just keep working that spot. Keep doing what you're doing. If you hooked up on crappie, there's probably more there. You're probably gonna get some more. And like I said, don't get too anxious. When they hit your bait, when they bite your bait, give it to them a little bit and then set the hook. Don't just ooh. You're gonna pull it out of their mouth a lot of times if you do that. When they bite, give and then set. That's what I do. I have a really high hookup ratio. I almost never lose a crappie, and I don't think I've ever used a net fishing crappie either. I usually get them up next to the boat, just grab my line and pull them in, or the kayak, or whatever I'm doing. But again, these baits right here are killer. This high-low rig right here, I guarantee you, man, if you use this and you go somewhere where there's crappie, and you twitch it back and work it slow like I'm telling you, and you're gonna hook up. You're gonna hook up. You're gonna get crappie. You're gonna get bluegill. You're gonna get smallmouth bass, spotted bass, even largemouth bass. And again, that's why I use the 6-pound test. I know a lot of people out there are using 4 or even 2-pound test, but I like to go with the 6 because I've caught some big bass on these things sometimes. You'd be surprised, especially like in the spring or even early summer. Sometimes you're on the boat or the kayak and you're working that shoreline. You toss this thing on top of a bass nest. They're still holding on that nest. They're gonna get pissed off and grab it. Don't matter if they're hungry or not. They're gonna get pissed off and they're gonna grab it, and you're gonna catch a nice bass, and you'll be glad you had that 6-pound test. But not only that, sometimes you get snagged up, and I just like a little more strength in my line. I mean, 6-pound for me works very good. And like I said, the crappie and bluegill are not line shy. I wouldn't say go out there and use 50-pound mono, but you know, with 6-pound test, you're fine. 6-pound mono, you're fine. You want to be super fine, go 6-pound fluoro clear, and you're gonna have a really good time. This is the best kind of fishing. One of the best ways to take somebody who's new to fishing, who you want to get into fishing, whether it's your girlfriend or your kid or somebody you know who's just not into fishing and they don't get it, take them out and get them on some crappie and some bluegill, because it's a lot of action and it's a lot of fun. And you know, like if I was going to take somebody fishing for the first time, I probably wouldn't take them sturgeon fishing. I mean, I know some guys out there are slamming the sturgeon back to back, and I've done it before too, but a lot of times when I'm fishing sturgeon, I'm sitting there waiting for a bite for a long time, and that could be really boring to somebody who's not an experienced fisherman, you're just trying to get them into the sport. If you're trying to get somebody into the sport of fishing, I would highly recommend you take them fishing for bluegill or crappie, because it's a lot of action, it's a lot of fun, and you're going to get them hooked. I hope this video helps you out. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for checking out Real Ninja, and we'll see you later. Stay fishy, my ninjas.